Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're stepping away from the thunderous clashes of Olympus and the dramatic quests of heroes to find a moment of peace. We're going to explore the story of a goddess who, despite her immense importance, is often the quietest voice in the pantheon. She is the first and the last, the keeper of the sacred flame, the heart of every home and city. Let's talk about Hestia, the goddess of the hearth. In the grand, often chaotic family of the Greek gods, Hestia holds a unique and revered position. She was the firstborn child of the Titans, Cronus and Rhea. Now, if you know anything about Cronus, you know he had a terrible habit of swallowing his children out of fear they would one day overthrow him. So, Hestia was the first to be swallowed, and, after Zeus came to the rescue, the last to be freed. This unique circumstance earned her the title, the first and the last, a phrase full of deep symbolic meaning that we'll explore a little later. As the oldest of the Olympians, she was granted a place among the 12 most powerful gods. However, Hestia's nature was one of tranquility and dedication, not of ambition or conflict. She wasn't interested in the power plays or romantic entanglements that so often defined her siblings. In fact, she actively chose a different path. Both Poseidon, the mighty ruler of the seas, and Apollo, the radiant god of music and prophecy, sought her hand in marriage. Imagine turning down 2 of the most powerful bachelors on Olympus. But Hestia did. She approached Zeus, the king of the gods, and swore a solemn oath upon his head, the most sacred vow one could make, that she would remain a virgin forever and dedicate her life to her duties. Zeus, respecting her conviction, granted her a special honor in place of marriage. He decreed that Hestia would preside over the central hearth of every mortal home and receive the first and best part of every sacrifice offered to the gods. This wasn't a consolation prize. It was a testament to her supreme importance. Hestia became the very embodiment of the home, the stable center around which family life revolved. She was the fire that warmed, the flame that cooked the food, and the light that brought comfort in the darkness. Her presence wasn't marked by grand temples on high Acropolis hills, but by the humble, essential hearth in every single house. Think about what the hearth meant to the ancient Greeks. It was far more than just a fireplace. It was the absolute nucleus of the home. It's where the family gathered, where guests were welcomed, where rituals were performed. When a new bride joined a family, her mother-in-law would welcome her by leading her to the hearth, symbolizing her acceptance into her new home. Newborn children were carried around the hearth to formally welcome them into the family. The fire in the hearth was meant to be perpetual. Letting it go out was a sign of domestic and spiritual failure. Hestia's flame was a symbol of continuity, stability, and the very soul of the family. This significance extended beyond the private home and into the public sphere. Every Greek city-state, or polis, had a public hearth in its central administrative building. This hearth held a sacred fire dedicated to Hestia that was never allowed to die out. This fire symbolized the unity, the permanence, and the spirit of the entire community. Hestia wasn't just the goddess of the private household. She was the goddess of the collective home that was the city. When colonists set out to establish a new city, they would carry a flame from the mother city's public hearth to light the fire in their new settlement. This was a powerful act, creating a sacred, unbroken link between the old home and the new, ensuring Hestia's blessing and protection continued across generations and vast distances. It's fascinating how Hestia's role contrasts with the other gods. While Zeus ruled the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld, Hestia's domain was the fixed, unmoving center. She didn't have epic myths filled with battles or love affairs. She doesn't have a long list of children or a dramatic backstory of betrayal. In fact, her defining characteristic is her steadfastness. She is the anchor in a world of constant change and turmoil. In some traditions, it's even said that she willingly gave up her seat among the 12 Olympians to Dionysus, the god of wine, to avoid conflict and maintain the peace of the divine family. She preferred her place by the hearth of Olympus, quietly tending the sacred flame, to the politics and drama of the throne. This act, whether literal or symbolic, perfectly encapsulates her character. Hestia represents the choice of peace over power, of duty over drama, and of community over individual glory. Her worship wasn't about elaborate festivals or grand processions. It was woven into the fabric of daily life. The first and last libations of wine at any feast were poured in her honor. A prayer to Hestia would begin and end every meal. She was invoked when a family moved into a new house or when a guest crossed the threshold. She was a constant, comforting presence, the divine guardian of what mattered most: home, family, and community. In art, Hestia is typically depicted as a modest and dignified woman, fully veiled and robed. She rarely leaves the home of the gods. Her symbols are simple: the hearth and its eternal flame. She holds no weapon, no emblem of power like a thunderbolt or a trident. Her power was subtle but absolute. Without her, there was no home. Without her, there was no civilization, as the public hearth represented the heart of the state. She was the foundation upon which everything else was built. This idea of the first and the last becomes even more profound when you think about it. As the firstborn, she established the principle of divine order. As the last freed, she represents the end of chaos and the beginning of a new, stable world under the Olympians. In ritual, she was honored first, acknowledging that the sacred space of the home and temple had to be established before any other worship could begin. And she was honored last, closing the ritual and bringing everything back to the peaceful, stable center. She was the alpha and the omega of domestic and civic life. So, why is a goddess so seemingly passive so important? Because Hestia represents something we all deeply crave: a sense of belonging, of safety, and of peace. In a world full of storms, she is the calm harbor. In a pantheon of dramatic and often fickle gods, she is the reliable, unwavering constant. She reminds us that true strength isn't always found in the thunder and the lightning, but in the quiet, steady warmth of a flame that is lovingly tended. Her power is the power of sanctuary, the sacred duty of keeping the fire burning, both literally in our homes and figuratively in our hearts and communities. Hestia's legacy isn't written in epic poems of war, but in the enduring strength of families and the peaceful continuity of civilization. She is the quiet heartbeat of the ancient world. Thank you so much for joining me on this peaceful journey to the heart of the Greek home. It's a wonderful reminder that not all power needs to be loud. If you enjoyed learning about the gentle and steadfast Hestia, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more dives into mythology. Let me know in the comments which quiet but powerful figure from history or myth you'd like to explore next. Until then, stay curious and take care.